Any changes or additions to the minutes from December 5th? All in favor?
Aye.
Minutes are approved. First item for discussion, review of police complaints. Have you had a chance to review them? Any comments? Any thoughts? I'm counting down.
I don't have any questions.
All right. So do we need a motion to accept the report?
Yes. Move to accept. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Thank you, Chief Eddington. Item H2 is our special events permit policy. This is a carryover, I believe, from a previous meeting. Mr. Gaynor, did you want to make a report or bring us up to date? Specifically, perhaps about the events on the wait list.
Madam Chair, is there a sign-up sheet for citizens wishing to speak?
There is, and we have one speaker. Mr. Reynolds. I believe
Is it on that item?
it is on that item.
Do you want to speak? And Madam Chair, while Mr. Reynolds is coming to the dais, there are two individuals who did not indicate what they wish to speak on. Nora Dietrich, I imagine you'd like to speak on the update on noise. Hi, on noise, and Harley Clark. So we'll have you there. And then there's
Clara? Sarah?
I didn't mean to sign up. I was signing in.
All right, thank you.
Okay.
I may want to speak.
Well, and the process for the committee, for those of you who aren't regular attendees, is we have a sign-up sheet if you'd like to speak. So what we can do is we can put that back out on the table if people would like to sign up to speak to one of the remaining items. Mr. Kneva can grab the sheet back because Mr. Reynolds is the only one who had asked to sign up for this item. We have a farmer's market, Lila Shoshana. And are you here just for general public comment? Or are you here to speak about special events?
Farmers Market.
Here to speak specifically on the farmers market.
Okay, very good. And we'll put this out for anyone else who wants to. If you'd like to speak and haven't signed up, if you could just put your name on that sheet, and Carl will bring it back up. Sorry, Mr. Reynolds.
Mr. Reynolds.
My name is David Reynolds. I live at 204 Davis, and I have never followed Doug when he hasn't said anything. This and I don't know what your discussion will be. I had thought I would make comments after your discussion, but there are a couple of things that I think you need to consider. I do believe that the lakefront can tolerate more low-impact events. I do believe that the high-impact events should be limited to what they are now. And when you consider low-impact events, I think you have to consider a couple of things. One of the most disturbing parts of an event is the amplification. Amplification is something you can't get away from in your own home. It's something that other users of the park can't get away from. And some of these events start very early in the morning. I think you have to be careful about who you allow to amplify. And another thing about amplification, the police department never seems to know who has a permit and who doesn't, and how they should enforce it. I think there should be closer cooperation between the permit issuer in the city and the police department, so that if there is a complaint, the police department will act on it. Generally, they will not act because they say they don't have any knowledge of it. I think also that you can't let an endless number of low-impact events occur. People use the park for lots of things, and many people use it, including my wife and myself, as a peaceful place to be. If you have endless even low-impact events, the park will not remain that way. So I think you have to balance it between activities and those who use the park for quiet enjoyment. Thanks, and I would like to reserve the right to, if you're going to have a discussion, to make comments later.
Sure.
Thank you.
You are welcome to rejoin us. Discussion. Yes, ma'am.
By the time I find my light.
Alderperson Holmes.
Okay. Following up from our December meeting, I was really impressed with what Mr. Gaynor had presented to us in terms of the low impact and the high impact events. And I think that we should go ahead and add other low impact events, and particularly those people who've been waiting. And the deadline is when, the end of the month?
The deadline was January 31st for the first sheet of the Special Events Committee, and the balance of the application is due the end of this month.
28th, okay. All right. Well, I don't know. I don't have a number. I know that we have 7 low impact as of December 5th, and then 5 high impact. And the runs and things that just sort of go through certainly doesn't seem to put a lot of stress on the neighborhood, doesn't appear to. So I would think that we could look at that and figure out how many do we have on the waiting list, Doug? Is it 5?
Well, to answer your question, and I think the question that Alderman Grover asked, we've got 4 that are on the list. We have another 5 that when we told them we were in a process with the City Council to reevaluate the process, they said that they would have to withdraw and go somewhere else for their event or not have their event. So we had 9, but we're down to 4 right now, unless any of these events can be resurrected.
So we have 4 that are classified as low or high. That's what I'm trying to get at.
In my opinion, I would classify them, and I'll give you what they are. 4 that would probably be low impact, and one is a Rotary International Race to the Finish. It's April 15th. Concerned Belizean Inc. is June 3rd. It's a walk fun for education. Evanston Running Club, July 22nd, and it's a half marathon. And Northwestern University would like to expand their fundraiser, the Randy Walker Walk, to a walk and add this year to a run. And we met with them and, again, explained that we were under, it was all under consideration. So I think those would be probably classified as low impact, I believe, but I'd leave that to...
Well, then okay, thank you. I would then move that we recommend to the council to add these 4 low-impact events for this calendar year.
Second.
Second. Doug, can you tell me where the events start, where they have everything set up? Like Ricky Birdsong is set up on, the Northwestern property. Mm-hmm. But the Rotary International, where's their starting point?
Let's see if I have that.
It's in the packet.
And the Belizean and the Evanston Running Club and the Randy Walker. Those are the 4, is that correct? Mm-hmm.
Let's start possibly in the reverse. The Northwestern University Randy Walker run would start and end at the Ryan Field, at the football stadium.
Okay.
That's their proposal.
So they're just going to be running through the lakefront. They're not going to be stopping and
correct.
Having tents or activities. Okay.
That's correct. They would have, some water stations or whatever, but no, they wouldn't. The Evanston Running Club is a half marathon, and that's going to be along the lakefront, and I'm not quite sure where they would stage.
And what day is that?
July 22nd.
Yeah, but what day of the week is that?
Well, what we try to do is push all of them to a Sunday,
Okay.
and that's our intent. I can look that up real quick. Sunday, yeah. The Concerned Belizean, that's a walk and fun, and it's June 3rd.
And where do they begin and end?
That I don't have with me right here. I don't have, well, maybe I do. Just let me take a quick look.
Mr. Gaynor, I have it Clark Street to South Beach,
Okay.
South Boulevard Beach.
Is that the staging area?
That's listed as the event location on the permit application.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Okay, so they'll be using the beach house and the city facilities.
Yes, what we're trying to do is, and I think we discussed this a little bit at our last meeting, is to move some of the staging away from the Centennial Dawes Park area,
Right.
utilize Clark Square, South Boulevard, so that a number of those, now South Boulevard makes it a little difficult because there's not a contiguous path because of that neighborhood that sort of but starting at Lee Street and then going north would be the areas that we could start using that we haven't used or hasn't been requested to use, but we'd like to steer folks into that area.
Right. I mean, Sundays, June, July, August are just very heavily family-used days, especially near the new beach house. And then the Rotary International.
That's at the lakefront. Also,
They start also at.
This is an 8 a.m.
Okay.
Let's see.
Oh, right.
That
yeah,
one's
but they-
April.
Okay. Okay.
To recommend to the City Council that we allow the additional 4 events that are currently on the waiting list for lakefront use or running through the lakefront for 2012. Alderman Fisk?
I'd like to ask Mr. Reynolds if he has any other comment before we take a vote.
I have no objection to those. I do think you should set a policy as to how many low impact events you're going to allow.
All right. But the motion is as to these 4. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. And presuming that we would continue in parallel our discussion of reexamining the lakefront policy, at least we've sent these 4 events, additional events, to the City Council. Mr. Gaynor, what's the soonest that the City Council would be able to approve this recommendation for the additional 4 events?
Well, what we would do is fold this into the procedure we have now, and it would be in March. We get the final applications by the end of February, and then we bring it to Human Services and then on to the City Council for approval, whether it's lakefront or somewhere else in the city. And we have about, that calendar of events has somewhere in the area of about 65 or so events that would be brought forward.
Okay,
and these would be part of those events.
I'm thinking mostly about the race to the finish on April 15th and want those folks who are organizing it to have enough lead time to put it in motion. So I suppose they'd be relying upon the decision of this committee recommending it to council if it's not going to actually be approved until by city staff until sometime in March.
Well, I think the action you've taken is a pretty good indicator that we can move forward.
Great, thank you. Next item on the agenda, township monthly bills. Is there a motion to approve?
Second.
Second. Any questions?
Bonnie was here. The Township Assessor's here.
Madam Assessor is here to answer some questions. I had some, I guess just maybe one question about the bills from the Assessor's office.
Hi.
Hi, Assessor Wilson. Thank you. My question is about the Office Depot bills and a number of tax credits that were credited back to the assessor's account on the Office Depot bill. Was that getting the tax exemption for purchases?
Exactly. When they gave me the card, when I was using the credit card, when I went to the store, they didn't give me the tax credit on it. So now we realized what had happened, and we got all that money back.
But as a matter of course, you seek the exemption from the sales tax?
Pardon?
As a matter of course, when you make purchases, you seek the tax exemption?
Now I did, but I didn't have that. There's a special card that they gave me to make sure I had the tax exemption.
And do you participate in the same? I believe the city has a buying program through Office Depot. Maybe city manager, correct me if I'm wrong. Like a purchasing contract with Office Depot. Does the assessor's office participate in that?
Well, I'm not sure. I was going to the store myself personally, but now we're ordering it to be delivered, any supplies we needed, so I'm not sure. You're asking me if it's through the city, or...
I think the answer is no.
I think the answer is no.
I think the assessor has a separate contract. We'd be happy to talk with her and Ms. John Paul about including the township on the city's contract.
We can do that?
So if you'd like.
Okay. All right, well, I'll have, who should we contact about
Contact Matt Swinkowski.
Okay.
Great.
I'll let him know you're going to be calling.
Okay, thanks.
Any other questions?
Just another way to save some dollars.
Yeah.
Okay, happy to do it.
Thank you, Assessor Wilson.
Okay.
Any other questions? All in favor of approving the township's bills for January?
Aye.
Any opposed? Nay. Item is update on the Noyes Cultural Center and the Harley Clark Mansion. I believe I'm sending this. Oh, the Health Department. Sorry, the Farmers Market application. We have two speakers. If you would come to the podium, please, and give us your name and address. Same folks. Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks.
My name is Frank Jeffress. I live at 613 Sheridan Road. I'm on the board of the Friends of the Evanston Farmers Market, and I want to thank the committee for the opportunity to speak about the fees charged by the Evanston Health Department to vendors at the various farmers market. And that we, the Friends, feel that the current health department fees are out of line with what farmers pay at other markets, and that the excessively high fees in Evanston will ultimately cause farmers to choose to move to other markets. We feel that this would not only hurt the quality of the Evanston markets, but it will also have a negative effect on commerce in Evanston. Our mission, we are a 501c3, is to increase the availability of healthy, fresh foods for everyone, with the new goal of having a year-round market here in Evanston. We need to attract farmers, more farmers. Unfortunately, many simply can't afford the high public health fees to participate in our local winter markets. Local markets are good for all by keeping valuable land and food production, increasing traffic to local businesses, and providing healthy food that hasn't traveled a great distance. In the packet, you'll see a summary of various studies about the favorable impact of the farmers market. I want to just highlight one study by David Swenson of Iowa State, considered the statewide economic value to farmers and regional economies by substituting locally grown foods for 28 imported foods. that in Illinois, for every dollar spent on locally grown foods, 65 cents return to the local economy, coming back to where they were spent. Because of the growing number of farmers markets, vendors have many choices about where they will market their products. We in Evanston have been able to attract farmers and vendors, but eventually our higher fees will deter future participation in our markets. Residents would be deprived of access to the market's healthy, fresh foods and the economic benefits to local businesses. Recently, we, the Friends, sent you a letter hoping to avert the cancellation of a winter market organized by Faith in Place, and I believe we'll have a speaker here from Faith in Place. Unfortunately, the host and farmers decided to cancel because of the public health fees. What makes this winter, that is the 2011-2012, doubly confusing for farmers and vendors is that last winter, the city of Evanston waived public health fees for winter markets held at houses of worship. Then, in November 2011, just recently, the health department personnel came to at least one church-sponsored market while in session, the day of the market, going from vendor to vendor, collecting cash on the spot if they wished to continue to sell during the market. This action was understandably upsetting to vendors and customers. In our packet, we have a list of the fees that we've compiled, and you'll see that 14 other Illinois communities with farmers markets, all Evanston's fees are higher than all of them. So as Evanston moves forward to encourage year-round availability of fresh produce and locally produced foods, we have among our recommendations that winter farmers markets be viewed not as one-day events, but as part of the entire annual schedule of farmers markets in Evanston, thereby reducing the cost to participating farmers and vendors, as well as reducing the load on health department personnel who will not need to visit previously certified vendors. That farmers and vendors be charged annual fees, enabling them to participate in our markets for a 12-month period, renewable at the start of the outdoor market season. That Evanston fees be more in line with nearby communities, and that fees for vendors attending only summer or winter markets be prorated. So we really feel that it is imperative that we provide an environment that is welcoming to all our farmers and vendors. And we want to encourage you to look closely at the fees that you're going to be setting. And as always, we also want to thank you for the support you've given to our markets, the farmers markets through the year. The city has done a nice job, so thank you.
Ms. Shoshani? And another speaker?
No, how do I ask a question?
Let's let the speakers speak, and then we'll have a discussion after.
My name is Layla Shushani. I'm from Faith in Place. First, thank you for hearing us on this topic. It's very important to us, and I think it's also very important to the Evanston community from the feedback I've heard. I think the Friends of Evanston Markets did a great job of summarizing the issue, so I'll just speak briefly on it from our perspective. Faith in Place is an interfaith organization that works with congregations around Chicagoland to come together to be better stewards of the environment, and we work with over 600 congregations, many of which are in Evanston. We had scheduled a winter farmers market with the Jewish Reconstructionist Congregation of Evanston to be held in February 12th, so this weekend it was going to be held. We had to cancel it because of the fee structure. And a little bit about, I guess, why we do these farmers markets and why we work with congregations. We think that it's a super way to particularly interact with the community, possibly sometimes aspects of the community that normally wouldn't come out to a farmer's market. A lot of our congregations that we've worked with before have created spin-off markets and are now continuously holding their own winter markets, at which point we don't work with them anymore, but that's actually what we want to do. We want our farmers markets to stay with the community, so we're kind of a transition organization, and that's why we do these pop-up one-time winter markets throughout cities. We're in 11 different cities this year, and we've been in some more in the past. And yeah, we've been in Evanston before. We were at Lake Street Church last year. The fees were waived, and I think that this year, we were hoping that we would be able to be in Evanston again, and we hope that we could work with Evanston in the future. I've passed around a sheet that has some different models that the other cities use. Some applied their normal farmers market fee structures to our market. Others view our market as a pop-up market, and so they either waive the fee and create an alternative model that works better for a 4-hour event. And I think that comes down to this. The main issue is that Evanston is currently viewing our small farmers markets, which typically have around 13 family farmers at them. It's given the same fee structure as a street festival or an event that could be taking place over a couple of days and be bringing in thousands of dollars, which our markets simply are not. And so I think that would be the main push for us, just speaking on this idea of it being a one-time event, to not have it be subject to the same fee structure as a year-long farmers market.
Thank you. We have another speaker or a question? Please come up and make sure you say your name and your address.
So this is hi, my name is Dr. Sarah Lovinger, 1131 Oak Avenue in Evanston. My question is, do the farmers market fees, in general, I'm sort of thinking more about the summer markets, but sort of in general, do the public health fees go primarily to pay for food inspection?
Ms. Lovinger, I don't know, but we do have city staff here who
Yes.
can answer the question.
Yes, the answer is yes.
The idea is to defray the cost of the food inspection.
Okay. And isn't it true that Evanston and Chicago and Skokie are the only communities in our area that have their own public health departments? The rest would be county and state.
There are 4 certified health departments. I believe the 4th is it Huntley? Oak Park is one. Oh, Chicago actually is not a certified health department. That was the trick part of the question. So it's Oak Park, Skokie, Evanston, and is it Stickney? I knew it was one of those LY.
So some of the other maybe North Shore community markets would not necessarily be comparable because they don't have a health department inspector fees.
Some of those other communities, ma'am, do have environmental health professionals. They may not have a certified health department. So the other communities around the northwest suburbs vary.
Okay, thanks.
Good questions. Mr. Riske?
Actually, I wasn't planning to come to this meeting, but I just popped in. I just have a quick question. This gentleman said something very disturbing to me. He said the city staff was taking cash from the vendors. That sort of bothers me as far as record keeping, and I'm a little puzzled why we don't just have a flat fee. When cash is taken like that from different vendors, did the city document everything properly? Wally will probably say they did, but I'm very suspicious and concerned that that kind of practice would be occurring, that a city staff would be walking through a farmer's market taking cash from vendors like that. So you need to maybe explain that to me, why we would do that rather than just a flat fee to charge the whole market that would be distributed out over all the vendors.
And if I can, Madam Chair, members of the committee, this is the first time hearing of it, and at a glance over to Mr. Kneva, the Environmental Health Services Manager, I think your glance indicated was the first you'd heard of it as well. Mr. Kneva will follow up with the individual who made the comments, and we'll track it down. That's not how the city conducts business, and if that indeed occurred, that's not correct. Mr. Riskey's second question, I think, leads to the item before the committee this evening, and that is some proposed changes to our fee structure. Madam Chair, I don't know if there's additional public speakers or if it's appropriate to, and I see one light on behind your.
Alderman Holmes?
I don't know if I want to talk so much about the fee structure, but the importance of the fees and the importance of the inspections. That is what concerns me. When you talk about a farmer's market, I think all of our minds just go to a farmer and bringing in produce to sell. But some of the markets have other items that farmers markets didn't used to have when Evanston first started. And I think that has up to our I want to say our awareness of what's going on and why that's important. I happen to be a real supporter and advocate of farmers markets, and a very small one that we keep trying to make work on the west side of Evanston. However, I've been really, really hard with them in terms of making sure that we have the health inspections, especially when they're having foods there that people are going to taste and eat there, and we don't know where it's been prepared. It needs to be inspected, and I think that has come to at least my attention in the last 2 or 3 years, where that has popped up. And I think that's where the controversy started. Baked goods that may have been baked at home, meat, cheeses, eggs. I can't even remember all the stuff that are popping up in farmers markets that didn't necessarily used to be in farmers markets. So I think that we're at a new space or new place with the markets, and in terms of what the fees are, that's a whole nother story because we have to cover the cost of the staff. However, I think they're very important, and I think the inspections are very important, and I think that we would all want to have to make sure that the foods are okay, and so that people will not be getting sick, and that we could know that it's been inspected. The inspectors have to go out and make sure everything is set up. And the young lady mentioned something like a market, I think, say like the Custer Street Fair or something like that. I think they're very strict criteria and the way in which they have to set up with the water and the washing of the hands and all of that to make sure, am I right, Carl, that you don't necessarily have at a market. So we have to look at that, and I don't think that when you're running a market, maybe at an institution or in a church or wherever, a synagogue, wherever it might be, that those kind of precautions are necessarily, taken. So I think that is the issue for us to really look at. And it's for me, it's about safety and making sure.
Mr. Bachler?
Yes, members of the committee, I might as well say Vonda Thomas, who's the health director, who's usually with you, is out of town this evening, and so I'm pitch-hitting as your staff. But I could speak to this, and Mr. Kniev is here, and he can speak to it as well. We've been very fortunate in Evanston to have a long-time, very successful farmers market in the downtown. I don't know how many years exactly it goes back, but it goes back many years. And over the last several years, we've seen that April to September market season really grow to, I think it's 6 or 7 markets around Evanston. So while you look at other communities around the northwest suburbs, there may be 1 or 2, that we have 7 markets in the main summer period. It really speaks to the popularity of them. I think our residents were very early adapters to the importance of locally grown food. What we've experienced over the last year now is people saying they don't want to stop in September or October. They want to be able to access produce that is available, other craft foods, other items throughout the year. And last year, as one of the speakers mentioned, yes, we did. Actually, I did waive the fees for those couple of winter markets because, as a past practice, we want to support innovation and things that our residents want. And this was sort of a one-time deal, and we thought it made sense to waive that. fast forward through the last 12 months, as the council knows, we had a fair amount of discussion back last spring looking at the existing farmers market fees for the traditional April to September route. Some of the newer markets came and I think rightfully complained that the costs were not associated as closely as some people felt with the actual work that was involved. And I think as committee members and as the council said over time, that is a value we have in Evanston. Public health, having a public health department for 100 years plus is a value. And so we went back, we looked at the fee structure for the summer farmers markets and came up with a 3-tier fee structure. And I think that seems to make sense. Now we find ourselves this winter having a very successful winter market at the Ecology Center. A local group came to the city, could not find a place through the good work of Mr. Dornicker, who's here, was able to make the Ecology Center available, and now we have a new tradition of one, I think at this point, very strong winters market, and as you've heard this evening, additional interest in more winters markets. So we're back to looking at the fees again to see what makes sense. Staff clearly agrees with the speakers that once again I think there's an opportunity to streamline this, and we're proposing this evening, and I apologize that the pages aren't numbered, but starting on page 106 of the packet is a memo from Mr. Kaniva that talks about our desire to have year-round fees, so that if a vendor is participating in a summer market or a winter market, that they would have a fee. Because it's important, I think, to step back and look at what's involved here. Depending on what the vendor is and what the good is, if it's created, baked, put together in some way, the health department first will look at the facility that is used, and then also monitors any requirements for the presentation of that good at a market. If it's the easiest thing is what is the most traditional is the produce. If it's not being cooked, baked, anything like that, that's fairly straightforward. So what we did with the 3-tier for just the market season was try to reflect that. We're now proposing a 12-month fee that would, again, have that upfront inspection, so the costs associated with the vendor understanding where the product comes from is a big part of it, and then there is the periodic checking as the year progresses. Another presentation here would be an adjustment to the market fees, and I think certainly we're happy to look at if you're going to be just a winter market person versus a summer market person, to have an appropriate fee associated with that. And then also the third part on page 108 deals with one-day fees, and we're proposing $105 for that. I think the question back for the council really becomes a policy question, not so much on the inspection, because your staff is not going to recommend that we change how we inspect. We do think it's appropriate to look at how much is charged, and that's again a policy question for the council to decide what is the threshold. How much money do you wish to recover of the costs associated with the work of the inspectors? Is it all? And certainly we're not at an all right now. I think the last we looked, we're probably at much of the cost is recouped. In some of these other communities that has zero, there's likely little or no cost associated with that, because depending on the community, they likely have no staff. In many communities it is Cook County. There's like a couple of Lake County folks on here too, Will County, Kane County. But we're one-stop shopping here in Evanston. So your staff is always going to want to continue the inspection. It really is up to you. There can be no charge for all of this if you so choose. Then that money that is currently budgeted as revenue doesn't come into the health department, and then we fund those operations under general revenues. So I don't think there is a magic way to do this. I think one permit for the year makes sense, because if a vendor is going to be at a summer market and a winter market and they have the same commodities, there's no reason to have multiple permits for that. But again, the amount of money, I think, is a policy question for the council in all this, and that's really should be the focus. Not that there be less inspection or more inspection, it's what's the appropriate amount to charge. So again, Mr. Kaniva is here, can answer the specific questions. His staff does an excellent job, I think, rolling with the punches, and with the winter market issues that have arisen this winter is the reason we're here tonight, because from a staff perspective, we knew that it didn't make sense. I didn't feel comfortable continuing to kick the can down the road with the winter markets to say, well, we'll just not have any fees. That's not fair to the folks in the summertime. If we're going to be a 12-month-a-year community that has these kind of events, then we need to have policies that fairly reflect that.
Alderman Tandem?
Yeah, thank you. I'm curious about the $105 fee for a one-day license. I realize that's not the most efficient way to do business, but just wondering how you came at that amount for a whatever you call pop-up or one-day event per vendor.
Madam Chair, members of the committee, Mr. City Manager, the $105 fee is the temporary food event fee. So it's for any event that's 1 or 2 days long. So this becomes lopped in with that. The vendors under the fee schedule before you could option out and buy a permit for the entire year rather than do that $105 fee, and that's been broken down into, I think it's $125 for the entire year to operate at all 6 markets throughout the year.
But I think, if I may, Alderman Tandem, I think the question is what's magic about $105? Why not $150? Why not $20?
Again, it started off at $90 for recovery of fees and then goes up every year with the Cook County rate increase by ordinance.
It seems to me, and that's understandable. I think it's not, again, the most efficient way to do business, just having a one-day event. But if the events like Faith in Place if we're going to see more of this type of activity, then the one-day event is going to become more and more important. It seems to me that this $105 is something you're saying like a weekend street fair. Is that the sort of other thing that falls in the same category as that?
Yes, Alderman. It's the same fee we charge for Custer Street Lakeshore Arts Arts Fair. Yes.
So it just seems we might want to look at a structure too that's a little more lower, I guess, low key, or something more as we're seeing in this new, this organization Faith in Place, which seems to me a low profit sort of community type event rather than a company that goes around from street fair to street fair and turns a fairly good profit.
And Madam Chair, Alderman Tandem, I believe, just to be clear, the fee is to the vendor, not to the organizer of the event. Is that correct?
Yes.
So Faith in Place, for example, if they chose to hold an event not using city property, using a church or someone else's property, and all their vendors had a permit because they're at the downtown market in the summertime, or if they're at the Ecology Center other Sundays, there's no additional fee. If those vendors have that year-long fee or the winter market fee, summer market fee, if they have that, the organizer is not charged. It's only the vendor. So if they choose to have a vendor come from some other part of the state, let's say, who their one visit to Evanston a year is to this one market, that's where this comes into play. If that vendor is not participating. And I think what we're seeing is that ultimately we're getting a cadre of vendors. They may not be here for every market 12 months of the year, but it's not a limitless number of vendors ultimately. So I think that by having the annual permit fee, once that's paid and once the health department has done the initial inspection and has the periodic inspections at the fair, they are free to sell their wares all summer long, all winter long for that one fee. And I think from a staff perspective, we think that's very fair and reasonable. Again, the price is something for the council to determine, but having that permit that allows you then to go and lawfully sell your goods around the community, we think makes a lot of sense.
Alderman Fisk.
Thank you. Do these vendors pay sales tax? Do they have
If the goods they are selling are subject to sales tax, yes.
Okay.
Could I have an opportunity to respond to Mr. Kaniva? Yeah. First of all, city staff did know about the very poor. I don't know how to describe it, but at the way the cash was collected at the November winter market, they knew it was known in in January about that action. And second of all, from my research on this issue, this is a very difficult issue, setting of fees. It comes from a federal mandate to the state, and in this case, as the city manager has pointed out, you have a certified health department. You know, you talk about the city of Chicago. The city of Chicago doesn't do these health department inspections because Cook County does, and they have a very significant process that you go through. You know that in some the Woodstock village of Woodstock does not do health department inspections. The county of McHenry does, and there's some significant fees that are paid there, up to $400. Second of all, Alderman Holmes, I want to just kind of hopefully clear up a misperception. The foods that you described, eggs, meat, poultry products that are being sold, there's some that because of the federal, then state, and then local mandates, there is some significant health department process. For example, all eggs, if you're going to sell eggs, whether it be at the West Side Market or the downtown Evanston Market, you have to have a permit from the state to sell those. And in order to get that permit, there are federal regulations that you have to do that. So there's a lot of regulatory process that occurs that ends up before that food can even come to a market here in Evanston already. Okay, I just want to comment on the memo. And what I find frustrating is some significant increases in fees. Now, so what you're telling me here is for a risk type low, number 3, you're going to go from $75 presently to $125. And I can tell you that is for the person who is selling low risk food, that's a significant increase. Think about the woman who is baking cookies in a commercial facility and may hardly sell, let's say, 70 dozen cookies in a farmer's market season. You have the $75. I can tell you, I can show you, is a significant fee for that person. The medium, you're going from $150 to $200. That's a significant increase. And you have to think about these farmers markets, these small farmers markets. They are not high traffic. So then I find it very interesting when we go to the next page in the temporary food permit fee of $105 for a Custer Street fair, which is very high traffic. That is, that's just an anomaly. When to think about a one-time event, the Custer Street Fair with high traffic, and you're going to be charging less than a low-traffic, event like a farmer's market. It just shows how out of scale these rates are. We value the health department inspections. They're very important. I would encourage you to think about prorating. If someone is going to appear only in the winter markets, think about prorating the cost for that.
Thank you, Mr. Jeffress. More comments, questions? We do have the advantage of Mr. Kaniva here. So I did have one question, Mr. Kaniva, and it was the rationale behind the risk-based fee schedule. Do other communities do that? I know it's a way of matching the fees with the labor intensity of those inspections, and also the rationale behind the increase in fees.
If I can, I take the second question first. The rationale behind the increase is simply that The fee you see on the first page of this memo is representative of a 6-month fee, so a seasonal fee. The fee on the next page, which is the raise in fees for one at a $275, it starts there, is for a 12-month. So instead of doing an inspection for once a month or twice a month to ensure food safety, we're now doing double the inspections. And I'm sorry, the first question again?
First question was the rationale behind the risk-based annual fee.
Right. The risk-based annual fee, we see that in many health departments. Basically, it's a reflection of the amount of work that's done. We do that on our own food service establishments. So every restaurant in Evanston is also rated according to risk. And the risk is simply the process of how they handle the food. If there's significant handling or if the food has been implicated in a foodborne illness, it's at that highest risk or that risk 1. If there's very minimal handling or they take it out of package and there's cutting and handling, then it goes to that medium risk or risk 2. If they're simply preparing something, packaging it, bringing it to the farmer's market, we see that as low risk because it has a little source of contamination, and so that's the risk 3 or lowest risk.
So in our fee schedule, are we trying to build in an incentive structure to encourage more farmers to purchase the annual fee and become just an Evanston vendor so that they can sell at any number of our local markets?
I'm not sure if encourage. We just want to strike a balance between what our inspections are costing and how to balance out to make sure we have an appropriate amount of vendors. The fee schedule doesn't include that the traditional farmer, as Alderman Holmes stated, the person who sells produce that hasn't been processed is not charged a fee and is exempt. And this year, for the first time, the cottage food vendor, the person who makes food at home, is exempt from any fees as well.
So city staff is looking for our recommendation to adopt the license for an annual fee for vendors who are selling at multiple sites throughout the year, and the fee schedule that's in the memo.
Correct.
Can I ask another question?
Please, Alderman Holmes.
Mr. Kaniva, are there how many of these so-called pop-up markets have we experienced here in Evanston?
I'm aware of only 1 or 2 a year.
And they've been winter markets.
Yes, they've been mostly winter markets.
And Alderman Holmes, I think, while we've looked at them as pop-up, I think it's fair to say that in the last summer we've had a couple pop-up farmers markets, which have, I think the Central Street market comes immediately to mind, where they sort of pop up. And they announce themselves as being there and around. So, I mean, I think it's a very fluid situation, and I don't think that we are in control of how this happens. I mean, if a church decides they want to do this, I think if it's successful one weekend, they may choose to do it more than that. If it's not, they might not. I think from our summer markets, as you know, they're not all created equal. Some of them flourish and others struggle.
But do they contact the city and let us know that the markets are coming?
Sometimes.
There? So sometimes they really are just pop-up.
And I think part of it has been because there is a sense that the fees associated with permits are onerous, and so if you can have a market that pops up and is there one Saturday or one Sunday and is not there the next day, and Carl and his fine staff have not heard or are aware of it. I think we had a couple of those occur last winter that we've discovered this winter in discussions with folks. Again, the idea is not to say that these are bad. I think the idea is to say that in the city of Evanston there is a community standard that these markets operate with appropriate health inspections. And I think the challenge we have and the challenge that the council has from a fee perspective is how best to collect back those costs. In other communities, they choose to handle these issues differently, and we certainly respect those community standards. But in this community, the community standard is these markets should be inspected.
Ms. Shoshani has some last brief remarks.
Yes, very brief. I just wanted to make some clarifications. First, just speaking about the nature of the pop-up market, I can't speak to other markets, but Faith in Place has always notified the health department a couple months in advance to get permission for the events and to make sure we have all the appropriate paperwork due ahead of time. And then also just with regards to having a year-long permit, many of our vendors that we were going to invite to this market at the JRC actually already are current vendors at the Ecology Center market, and they would have to pay an additional $105 in addition to the year-round permit to attend our one-time event because it's in a different fee category as this one-time event, and they're not recognized with the farmers markets.
Please, Mr. I think we're looking to change just that.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. Sorry, point of clarification. What we're looking to do is establish that risk fee, and that would be for every market, including the pop-up markets, so that if you paid for the winter's market or the summer's market or something else, you could pay for that fee for the entire year. And so the people that, unfortunately, the February 12th farmers market didn't go, those people from the Ecology Center who wanted to sell at her market or the Faith in Place market would not see an increased fee or additional fee.
It'd already be teed up to
Correct.
just relocate.
Yep.
And Mr. Jeffress, your last 30-second wrap-up.
I know. I am frustrated to hear that the Central Street Market is described as a pop-up when it
Isn't anymore after 2 seasons.
Well, it was organized by the city in reality, so they knew about it. So to call it a pop-up market, I really would ask that you delay this vote in approval of increased fees, because I don't think you're going to see that the overlap between a lot of overlap. I can only think of, from my knowledge, one vendor who is at the winter market at the Ecology Center that will be in the downtown market. So I do believe this requires some further investigation. Thank you.
Thank you.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, please.
Sir, can I ask a question?
Sure.
So the vendors at the winter market are only winter vendors?
In a lot of cases it is, and they are people who are not selling at, they have been prevented from coming into the downtown Saturday market.
And they would have no interest in going to any of the other 6 markets in the community?
They may sell at those other 6 markets, but I want to get back to the point is, when you compare a temporary, one-time Custer Street type fair and charge only $105, the amount of customers that you have that is drastically different than you would find at Alderman Holmes' West Side Market. To be honest, it's a very different number of customers as at the West Side Market, or at the Ridgeville Market, or the Central Street Market. We're talking about very different markets here. And I don't want to call them as pop-up markets either. They're all organized.
And again, sir, if the committee will indulge me, if the winter market folks are there and they are able to purchase either a full year permit, a health permit, or a half-year permit, you're saying that's not good enough?
What I'm trying to say is that my gut reaction, from my knowledge of who is selling at these markets, that they're not, other than Nichols, for example, which is selling produce, so I doubt they need a health department inspection. The overlap between these 2 markets is very minimal.
And you're saying that they would not appear at any other summer market in the community with that if they had a year-long permit,
it depends. They're looking for high traffic venues.
So they wouldn't go to Central Street, Ridgeville, the YMCA, the West Side Market. They would not be interested in any of those.
They may be interested, but if the alternative is a market in a neighboring community or in the city of Chicago that has greater traffic, they're going to be looking at those markets and not the Evanston markets.
And so you're saying then that they would just want to do the winter piece and pay as little as possible for that?
I believe so.
Okay, thank you.
So do we have a motion to recommend this policy and fee structure to the City Council for further consideration. Is there a motion?
Yeah, I'm
Is there
moving.
a motion? Is there a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right, thank you. Next agenda item is the Noyes Arts Center and the Harley Clark Mansion. I know we have one speaker. Nora? Ms. Diedrich? And anyone else who would like to speak on the Evanston Arts Center and the Harley Clark Mansion, let me know.
Good evening. I'm Nora Diedrich. I live at 1929 Sherman Avenue. I'd like to thank the committee and the city manager for a few minutes to update you all on what the Arts Center has been up to with regards to our facilities issue. We have hired and are working with a fundraising consultant. She is, through a series of one-on-one interviews and focus groups, going to tell us what our potential strategy might be in our fundraising potential if we choose to do a future campaign. We have hired and are working with an architecture firm. We have 2 architects who are going to be able to tell us what kind of configuration of building would suit our current art studios, along with some possible new studios and potential growth in the future. We have had the good fortune of meeting with Adam Goodman at Northwestern Center for Civic Engagement and Leadership. He's very generous with his time and has given us some great direction on how to conduct some community needs surveys, which we plan to do. We have had several meetings with the city's economic development team, which have been wonderful. They have been very helpful to us. We have also walked through a number of buildings in Evanston, and will continue to do that throughout the work of these consultants while they do their feasibility studies for us. The timeline for this work we've compressed into a 3.5, possibly 4-month window. So we are going to get the answers from these folks by mid-spring, late spring, and we're looking forward to that. I just want to add the fact that this work is really not just the Arts Center talking to itself. It's more than our board members sitting in a room trying to figure this out. We have involved students, faculty members, community stakeholders, and many other people in the process. We really want to get a feel for what our opportunities are in the community and what needs might be out there that we haven't met. So we're really looking forward to some of these results. We're very, very happy to be working with the city at this point, and I can tell you that our board is aligned, and I use the word aligned, with a move out of the Harley Clark House as well as the Noyes Cultural Arts Center to a new home that we hope will fit our needs much better, as well as the community's. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Dietrich. Mr. Bobkowitz.
Yes, Chair Grover, members of the committee, you have before you a communication from me with a series of recommendations that I would ask the committee to consider to forward to the City Council. One is to negotiate a memorandum of understanding with the Piven Theater workshop leading to a long-term lease for a portion of the Noyes Cultural Arts Center and proposed agreement pertaining to other issues for Piven's occupancy at the center. Number 2, to continue working with a new Noyes Center Tenants Association on operational and space issues and potential amendments to 2010 leases as appropriate and new lease conditions for future years as the council considers them in the future. Also, to continue working with the Evanston Arts Center on a new location to relocate its programs and operations within Evanston to obtain a property appraisal of the Harley Clark Mansion, 2603 Sheridan Road, with proposed subdivision of the property to allow for public access to the lakefront and other uses, public uses of the area, and then finally to return to you no later than April 30th with a proposed plan for the solicitation of proposals for other uses of the Harley Clark Mansion beginning in 2013. As you recall, the council last discussed this issue back in July. Since then, I have been personally involved in working on this, have met on 3 occasions with the tenants at the Noyes Cultural Arts Center in July, September, and January to discuss future options and to answer questions. Over the last 6 months, there have been many discussions about possible models for future operation of the center, and these discussions have led really to two paths which I believe merit additional investigation. First, the Piven Theater Workshop has approached the city with a proposal to expand its occupancy at the center. This expansion will consolidate its existing space, currently in various locations in the building, to one area on all floors of the building. The Piven Theater is proposing to occupy the south one-third of the building and would extensively renovate the area with new classrooms, rehearsal space, offices, and a new theater. Preliminary discussions with Piven Theater would have the city grant them a long-term lease in the space. In exchange, Piven would invest in excess of $2.5 million in capital improvements in the building. I'm asking the Council for authorization to negotiate an agreement with Piven to accomplish these objectives in return with a memorandum of understanding for the City Council's consideration. As you'll recall from our discussions in July, there are many tenants at the Noyes Cultural Arts Center, and they have all, I think, expressed great interest and concern about any changes at the center. A group of tenants under the leadership of Ken Arlen came forward with a model to allow for greater flexibility for existing tenants to occupy and use their space at the center, and that in return rents and other revenues at the center could be reinvested along with general fundraising to address capital and maintenance needs. I have volunteered to work with all the Noyes tenants on the creation of a tenants association that would develop this new model for operation, and that group held its first meeting last Friday. I'm also asking the Council for authorization to move forward with this initiative. Taken together, I believe there can be a new model for Noyes that incorporates a long-term significant presence for the Piven Theater Workshop, along with continued use of the center by other tenants in the matter as Noyes is operated. Certainly in talking with all the tenants, people really value what has been created there, and that is a collaborative environment for artists of all kinds to work together. And I think that the model I'm proposing is one that can allow for that. I believe that all existing tenants can be accommodated at Noyes, even with additional space allocated to Piven through the use of existing vacant space, the anticipated vacation of space by the Evanston Arts Center, and the relocation of city staff from Noyes to the Civic Center. These discussions are all ongoing, and I think the Council made it very clear that you all wanted to see this as a very open and transparent process. So this evening is really meant to be an update and to get Council's further consideration and approval of these initiatives by forwarding these recommendations to the Council for their consideration. The second piece of this is the Harley Clark Mansion, which is the primary site of the Evanston Arts Center. Since last spring, I've had several discussions with representatives of the Arts Center, as Ms. Dietrich has mentioned. In addition, Mayor Tisdall has also spoken to Arts Center representatives about the city's concerns about the condition of the mansion and the city's financial ability to make needed capital improvements. And I think it's probably important to remind the committee and the community that's kind of where the discussion started there, is that the building is a beautiful, lovely building, an important part of the landscape of the city of Evanston. However, the city of Evanston does not have funds to continue to invest in the building per our current lease with the Evanston Arts Center, and I think the Evanston Arts Center would say that they've also struggled with being able to make those improvements, and I think have been hindered, as Ms. Dietrich has said, from expanding and growing their very popular offerings given the location and the construct of the facility. That brought us to the July 2011 council meeting. The city heard that the center shared our concerns about the building and was willing to work on options. Mayor Tisdall and members of the City Council and I have always reinforced through these discussions that it's not our intent that the city force the Arts Center to vacate the mansion, but rather to partner with the Arts Center to identify a new location in Evanston that will allow them to flourish and expand to serve the larger community, and that commitment remains, and we continue to work closely with them. I'm asking the Council and this committee to forward to the Council to allow me to continue working with the Evanston Arts Center on a new location, to relocate its programs and operations within Evanston, to obtain a property appraisal of the mansion with the proposed subdivision of the property. And if you'll recall, in July, the Council was concerned about the property, as I think the Council is aware, maybe to remind members of the public, the Lighthouse Landing area is a collection of multiple parcels. The parcel that the Harley Clark Mansion sits on is probably the least constrained parcel in that it was privately purchased by the city. Adjacent to it is land that was deeded to the city by the United States government, and there are significant restrictions on the future use of that land. In addition, there's a leasehold that the Lighthouse Landing Park District has on a portion, but not all of that property. The Lighthouse Landing Park District has another parcel of land immediately to the north of the Harley Clark Mansion site, which they own free and clear, and then immediately to the north of that is a city-owned park. So there are, 4 different parcels with different constraints, and as the council is aware, the Harley Clark Mansion parcel does have some access land that is currently used to access not only the city park that is located on the other side of the Lighthouse Landing Park District parcel, but also has land that is what is used to access the lakefront. So any change of use of the mansion, any potential sale, that parcel will need to be subdivided in some way, and in talking with the city attorney's office, the subdivision requirements in Illinois are such that we are unable to create small parcels. We will have to likely talk with the Lighthouse Landing Park District about annexing land there. We may also have to look at combining one of our existing parcels, which has the covenants from the federal government. So there's work to do regarding that, and is something that again, with the committee and the council's concurrence, we'll continue to work on. But I'm feeling very positive that these are very difficult issues, but I appreciate the willingness, and you see, I think pretty much everyone that's left in the room are people who are at Noise, who are concerned about the ongoing strength of that. You've already heard from Ms. Dietrich, who has concerns both at the Arts Center and at the Harley Clark Mansion. So I think these discussions are going well, but everyone is concerned. Everyone wants to make sure that the cards are face up on the table. As you know, I don't have a lot of history with these folks and their concerns, but I have come to learn not only are they passionate about the arts and all types of arts in Evanston, but there's also long histories here of relationships between individual artists, individual arts organizations, and the city of Evanston, relationships between individual artists and arts organizations and other individual artists and arts organizations. So there's a lot of issues intermeshed here. But I think everyone agrees how important the arts in Evanston are and how important it is for any changes to either the mansion or to the Noise Cultural Arts Center be done thoughtfully and be done in communication with all concerned. So I think that's the path we're going down, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions? Comments? Alderman Fisk?
Wally, I think you've done actually a good job. I think when you started out with your first conversations with the folks at Noise, it didn't go as smoothly and as easily as we wanted. And the Noise Cultural Arts Center is in my ward. I have a lot of folks who are artists there and who were extremely concerned about what was going to happen, extremely concerned about possibly the big guys versus the little guys and how things were going to be fair and were they going to be fair. And all of this goes back to, and this is why I'm complimenting you, it goes back many, 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 many years where Noise School was really set up as a place to house individual artists of all different varieties, a place that artists would work together, something that was very, very strongly rooted in the community. We love success, and we don't want to deny anyone success, but I think as some organizations grow and as their needs change, they can also impact other smaller groups of people. And that was the challenge at Noise, and it is still a challenge at Noise. I mean, this is a discussion, as Wally said, that's going to go on. But part of how that's made better is by the people involved, especially Wally in this case, and staff, being very sensitive to not only the original intent of the building, but also the economic realities of Evanston right now and what we can do to maintain the building. Now, that That said, I guess the question that I have is that Piven is going to invest $2.5 million, supposedly, in capital improvements in the building, and I'm wondering how much of that would actually be built out to improve their area of the building, or whether that money would be spread out over the cost of the, for example, roof or bathrooms, or things that would benefit all tenants. And I think, so that's one of the questions that that we want to find out. And I'm assuming that in your subsequent conversations with all the tenants there, that those needs, their physical needs, are going to be taken into consideration. I want this to work for everyone. It's very important that especially the small individual artists understand that they're very important to the quality of life in the community. So we're not just looking at who's the biggest and who has the most money, because that's not where we're coming from with this. And I trust that the city manager is making that clear to all of you in every single meeting. And as I said, I've been delighted to hear the conversation improve and improve every subsequent meeting. It seems to me that people are communicating better, our staff is understanding a little bit more, and that's the direction we really want things to move in. Harley Clark Mansion is a little bit different. It is a landmark. It's very important to the streetscape of Sheridan Road. Clearly, we don't have the money to keep that up. And fortunately, the Art Center Board recognizes not only the commitment by the community to keeping the organization in Evanston, but partnering with them to ensure that they can stay in space that works better for them than the space that they currently have. So, all of this is a long time coming, but again, the commitment that we have to the arts organizations is very, very strong, and I want all of you to know that you have, people on the city council and on the city staff who are determined to make this work for you.
Alderman Fisk? Tindem?
Thank you. A lot of same comments along the lines of Alderman Fisk. I wanted to clarify with regard to Noise Street Cultural Center what you're asking us to do tonight. And the comment that I suppose I just reiterate that occurs in my head is that you said that you felt there was an option for keeping everyone, I guess, for lack of a better word, satisfied with terms of space, including current clients as well as the Piven build-out or Piven improvements, or whatever that amounts to be. And you think that's still a goal, a good option to be seriously considered? I think it sounds like the best option, but is it a realistic expectation of ours?
Alderman Tennant, members of the committee, I believe at this point it still is a realistic expectation. There are some vacant spaces in the building currently. We are looking at, as part of this, having the city's uses come out of the building. There's an amount of space that the Evanston Arts Center has. We're looking at that coming out of the building. I think it's too early to tell 100% if that would be the case, but I'm very confident, and I'm really taking as a guiding principle that would be the goal. To your first question regarding what's being asked, the recommended action this evening is that the committee recommend to the council that I be authorized to negotiate a memorandum of understanding with Piven Theater leading to a long-term lease for a portion of the Noise Cultural Arts Center and proposed agreement pertaining to other issues. So the MOU would really be the rules of the road as to what will be needed. I think Alderman Fisk raises important issues regarding the common areas and how the interaction with Piven and a long-term lease would impact the work of the common areas. Again, I felt it was important to come and get that specific authorization from the council to move forward, but now the next step is to work out the details of all that and come back with an MOU. The second piece is to continue to have authorization to work with creating a tenants association. We had a first meeting of that group last week. I think we're probably still 2 or 3 meetings away from that group being ready to establish itself and to move forward. We talked about what roles and responsibilities would be, so I'm asking that I be allowed to continue to work on that. And so those are the recommendation of the 5 recommendations. It's those first couple that deal specifically with the Noise Cultural Arts Center.
Alderman Fisk? Oh, were you done?
Yeah, thank you. I agree this is it's a great direction, and you've certainly done a lot of work in working with all these different people and organizations. It does seem to me it would be hard to consider one without the other, that the extent to which Piven is willing to invest is certainly a major operation that certainly couldn't be, I suppose, considered without including not only the common areas, but the space allocated to the other tenants, especially as they are accommodated now. Is that, I mean, are you working these sort of in tandem, or are we actually two different sort of negotiations?
Well, and actually it's really threefold if you include the space that the Evanston Arts Center has at Noyes as well. So, the goal here is to come up with an agreement with Piven that makes sense for all involved, to work with the tenants that there is a long-term plan for the remainder of the building to keep that mix of tenants, recognizing that if we come to an MOU and a long-term lease agreement back to the council, that the request of the Piven Theater Workshop is to use a contiguous amount of space, some of which is used by others. So they would have to come back with a plan that would ultimately move some folks from existing space to other parts of the building. So that's the goal. So that would be a part of all of this. And then the last piece deals with the common areas. There's not going to be a Piven roof and then everybody else's roof. There's going to be a roof to the Noyes Cultural Arts Center that will need improvement, HVAC, all of that. And we're going to have to work not only with the Tenants Association but with Piven so that there's a family of agreements that allow the center as a whole to thrive and move forward. And that will include the long-term capital investment. We're not there yet, and we need to continue to work. And the reason for being here this evening is really just to check in, recognize that these are issues, and to continue to be diligent to work through them.
Alderman Fisk?
Yeah. One question. Is Tenants Association or organization, is that all the tenants other than Piven?
No, that would be all the tenants, period.
Okay, so like in a condo association, if Piven were occupying a third of the building, they would have a 30% or 33% vote in any.
No, that's not what that's not what the group has decided thus far. They feel that it's one tenant, one vote.
Okay, wonderful. I guess what I'm thinking, and I don't know how best this would work out for you, but since your discussions with Piven actually include discussions that involve the other artists, I want them to be involved in that. I'm not sure right now that we're quite ready to go to a closed-door meeting with Piven without everyone knowing what's going to be discussed. And
I agree 100%, and that's why I'm here, because I work for all of you first. So I need to make sure that you're all comfortable with this. We talked at the Tenants Association meeting last week that the next meeting would be an opportunity for the Piven folks to share in more detail what their thoughts are.
And I think after that meeting is the more appropriate time for you to go and talk individually with Piven for.
And again, the sequence of this, I think, is sort of an ongoing process. So the Piven folks have talked with me. I've talked with them. I've talked with Next. I've talked with individual artists. I've talked with Actors Gym. So this will be a continuing process. We have a next meeting scheduled of the Tenants Association. At that point, the Piven Theater Workshop will present what they have, and they'll get comments from that. So there's nothing.
Doesn't that seem to be a more appropriate moment for you then to come back to us or am I missing?
No.
We just went to the council now, Judy. That would come back.
No. I'm not. This is the council still.
Right.
Your direction's very clear, and this being the Evanston way of deliberative discussions. I'm only asking for permission to continue to talk to all concerned.
And that's fine.
And so there's nothing that will come back to the council until there have been many more discussions, not only with Pivens, but with the Pivens involving other tenants so that they understand what the issues are. They're quite frankly are issues I have not broached with the Piven Theater Workshop regarding joint use issues as far as the roof and the HVAC. Okay. And I've been reluctant to have those meetings one-on-one because I didn't think that it was an appropriate time. It was more appropriate to come back and share with you, the full council, the community, where we're at. So this is a little bit slower process. This is not the most efficient way to go about this, but I think it's the most public way to go about this.
Right.
And so, again, my commitment is to do this deliberately with maximum participation. It's going to take a little bit longer, but I think at the end we will have plans in place that address everyone's concerns to the greatest degree possible.
In the meantime, I'm guessing we can keep this on the Human Services agenda for periodic updates so that we're in the loop. If this isn't going to council, it'll come back to us for further discussion.
Right. It's just the wording to negotiate an agreement with Piven that I'm a little concerned about.
But that's an iterative process.
That's fine. If that's what it is, that's fine. Is that fine with everybody?
Any other comments, thoughts? I think that we should all be glad for the really good report from Nora Dietrich about the Evanston Arts Center and its planning, which sounds less like a displacement and more like an opportunity for the Arts Center. Exactly. And thanks to the arts groups who have made known their commitment to Evanston and to doing their good work in Evanston. And it sounds as if City Manager Bobkowitz is needing to resolve a lot of details, but he can't do any of that detail resolving without our permission, without sending him back out to work on all those details. So is there a motion to adopt the recommendations authorizing the city manager on those 5 points in the memo?
Move to adopt.
Second. Is there a second? Any more discussion? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any nays? Thank you.
I think Ms. Dietrich wanted to say
Ms.
something.
Dietrich?
Yeah, I just thank you very much. One quick comment. I don't want the council members to think that it's a big versus small situation, and keep in mind that some of the larger organizations employ teaching artists who have studios at Noise, and I think it's good to have both, but it's not really big v small. We really are all working together, and we have the capacity to hire teaching artists and exhibit their work, et cetera. And I think that the performing arts organizations also do the same thing in their realm. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Any communications for the committee tonight? Any further business? Motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second? All in favor? Aye. I'm sorry, ma'am. I didn't see your name on the list to speak.
You're welcome to come up and ask questions. The meeting's concluded, but
we'd be happy to talk with you.
Well, that's okay. Can you come to the podium?
Sign up.
So far, I'm a small artist at Noise, and I don't know of anyone who employs artists except for Evanston Arts Center in individual studios. And the Arts Center, the space taken up by the Arts Center is mostly in the south end that Piven is going to take over, as is this part the city occupies. The only space that will be newly available will be a couple of studios at the other end of the basement. We're not even sure they have windows. And there are 3 floors that will be taken over by Piven. We've never seen any of the plans. We don't know where this magic space is going to be created. And while there's a tenants committee being formed, it's been suggested that only 6 or 8 people be on the committee and that they be voted in, and some people from the basement and some. I'm a basement artist. We've done a lot of really fine things in the years. I've been at Noise many years, and we've done a lot of really exciting things that have reached this community and all over the world, frankly. We've designed some programs and some things that were pretty exciting. And so is everybody at Noise. But I just appreciate the fact that you're going slowly, and I just would like more transparency. I know everybody's trying to be transparent, but I don't know what the artist committee is going to look like, and I don't know what space Piven is going to take, except that it's an enormous piece, and I don't know where there's going to be new space created.
Ma'am, for the record, tell me your name and your address.
I'm sorry, I'm Sarah Pete Meyer. I live at 2780 Sheridan Road, and I've been a resident artist at Noise since 1995.
Great. For some of those details, you're welcome to talk to Mr. Bobkowitz the meeting has concluded, and I'm sure he'd be glad to talk with you.
We talked before the meeting.
And a lot of those details will be worked out. Thank you. All right, we are.